Sleigh bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing.
Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to do another ranking video of sorts. Today I'm going to be ranking the two book clubs that I'm a part of. One is the Well-Read, Badly Behaved book club. It's a local in-person book club that I started attending last year. So this is the second year of the book club. And I'm just really excited to go over everything that we read this year, what I thought of them, and rank them from my favorite to my least favorite. And then the second book club that I will be talking about is my own personal Patreon book club, the Night Owl Book Club. And we're going to talk about the picks, how I structured the year, and what I thought of them, what I rated them, and then rank them as well. And I do have a video already on my channel with all of my plans for 2025 for my Night Owl Book Club. So if you would like to join, I would love that. The link is always in the description. You have to join at the highest tier, the $7 burnout tier, but that gets you so much more than just the book club. Yeah, we would love to have you over there. Like I said, link in the description. So let's go ahead and start with my in-person book club. These ladies have become my in-person friends, and I'm so grateful to the book club because of that. So we started the year, obviously January. We do one book every single month, and we usually pick the book at the previous book discussion, and then we read the book in the month, and then towards the end of the month we discuss it, and we meet around different restaurants, breweries, things locally. So in January, we read Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is a YA fantasy book about two rival journalists that are reporting during the war between gods, and they end up falling in love. I rated this book 4 stars. In February, we read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and this was a reread for me. So that will be reflected in my ranking. I usually still put it, fairly high if it's, a highly rated book, but I don't put it as high as some others because it was a reread. But this is a magical realism story about a woman that inherits her aunt's apartment, and when she goes in, it's like 7 years in the past, and yeah, it's also a love story. So I ended up rating that one 5 stars. In March, we read First Light Winds by Ashley Ellis. Yeah, is it Ashley Ellis? Anyway, okay, so we read First Light Winds, and I specifically remember this book club meeting because I had a really delicious latte, but I really enjoyed this. I love thrillers. As you guys know, this was a really popular one this year. I rated it 4 stars. In April, we read In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune, and this is a light sci-fi, cozy fantasy about this man who created this kind of like puppet-ish, and they live in this like tree house in the woods, and then for reasons the puppet, the boy, has to go into the city and do certain things. So it's kind of like an adventure. It's like if Pinocchio was an adventure story. I rated that one 3 stars, and honestly, I didn't like the story itself, but I did really love one of the characters. In May, we read The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue, and this is a literary fiction pick about just a woman in her 20s and all life's up and downs. I rated it 2 stars. I think I would have rated it higher if I was like more if I was in my 20s, I probably would have appreciated it more, but it's an Irish writer. I don't typically like that, and nothing against Ireland or like Irish. It's just, there's something about the writing that I really don't like. So yeah, I rated that one 2 stars. In June, we read a historical fiction pick called Keeping Lucy by T. Greenwood. And this was actually a recommendation from my friend Lena from Lena's Bookshelf, and I brought it to my book club. And I personally was disappointed with this. I gave it 2 stars, but I can appreciate the story. It's about a woman who ends up having a baby, and the baby is whisked away to this hospital because, you know, the baby didn't come out like perfect, you know, and they don't think that they'll be able to care for it. So they like ship it off to this hospital. And then she hears about the horrible conditions of the hospital, and her and her friend go like get the baby for like a visitation, and end up going on a road trip, basically like stealing the baby. But I gave that one 2 stars. Then in July, we read Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I'm sure all of you know what this book is about. It's a mystery thriller-ish kind of story. I actually went to meet Riley Sager in person with my friends Jesse and Lena to go get a signed copy of this book on his book tour. I had so much fun doing that, but the book really let me down. So I read it for my in-person book club, but I also read it for the Sleep When I'm Dead book club, which was kind of nice. Anytime there's like a, you know, a tie-in between book clubs that I try to read for. So yeah. Then in August, we read Summer of '69 by Ellen Hildebrand. And this is the only book club book that we actually didn't have a meeting for, just because of different circumstances. A lot of us were not able to make it, so we just like canceled the book club. Plus, I think like a lot of us just didn't love the book. I rated it 3 stars. I think it's the second or the third book that I read by this author. I don't know if this author is for me. I'd probably have to try a couple more books just to see, like, you know, where I fall. Because I think the first one that I read, I also rated 3 stars. And I'm trying to think of another book that I read by the author, but maybe I've only read the 2. I don't know. But it is a historical fiction story about a family and the various stages of life that they're in. And then in September, we read a nonfiction memoir, Your Table is Ready. It does have a longer title, but it's by Michael 𝒑𝒏𝒌𝒔. I don't know how to say his name. Anyway, most people didn't really enjoy it, but I did. I gave it 3 stars. It's about the restaurant business and working as a waiter, waitress in the restaurant business in the 80s in different spots around New York. I think it's Your Table is Ready, The Tale of a New York City Maitre d'. I think that's what the longer title is, but I really liked it. So he was a maitre d', talked about famous people coming to these places, very high profile restaurants in New York City in the 80s and stuff like that. So I enjoyed it. I just wish it would have been, you know, a little bit better. But yeah, so that's what we read in September. And then in October, we read We Used to Live Here by Marcus Clywer, and I really enjoyed this. I also read it for the Night Owl Book Club, so I, again, love the crossover. This is a horror novel about a couple that's living in this house, and one day a family knocks on the door and says, hey, we used to live here. Can we take a look around? And things just go bananas from there. It has a lot of I won't say like multimedia, but it has like some Morse code throughout, and it has like a map in the beginning, and it has some like time travel aspects to it. Yeah, it has lots of interesting elements in the story. I rated it 4 stars. It is a book that I would like to reread because I think knowing things that I know now, I would probably enjoy it even more. And then in November, we read The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, and it's another fantasy book. It's more like cozy fantasy though. And honestly, I didn't love it. And it's not because it's not a good book. It is definitely a good book, but I always rate on my personal enjoyment of the book rather than the literary merit of a book. So I ended up rating the story 2 stars, but I thought the romance was cute. I thought the cottage was really cozy. The little town was really sweet, but it had all of these like fantasy animals, and like there was magic going on, and there was like government things going on, like political things. And it's definitely not my sort of vibe. Like if I told you I read this book for fun, you would be like, are you okay? No, I read it for book club. So I gave it 2 stars. And moving on to, of course, December. This month, we are reading The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter. And fun fact about this, I read it for my podcast. I did a discussion with my friend Melissa, and it's also our December pick for my in-person book club. So I loved it. I rated it 5 stars. I thought it was a perfect blend of being very romance heavy, but having like a mystery element as well. And according to all of my friends that have read it and my discussion with Melissa, there's going to be people that go into it for the romance, and there's going to be people that go into it for the mystery. And you just kind of got to see what you think about it from there. But I really enjoyed it, and it definitely made me want to pick up more books by Ali Carter. So those are the 12 books that we read in the year 2024. And now let's share my ranking. So in first place, The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year, because again, I rated it 5 stars, but I also rated The 7-Year Slip 5 stars. But like I was saying when I was talking about that book, because I initially read it last year, I just lowered, I let a new 5 stars be above. So The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year, The 7-Year Slip, in third place is Divine Rivals, in fourth place is First Lie Wins, in fifth place is We Used to Live Here, in sixth place is Your Table is Ready, in seventh place is Middle of the Night, in eighth place is Summer of 69, in ninth place is In the Lives of Puppets, in 10th place is Keeping Lucy, in 11th place is The Rachel Incident, and then in 12th place is The Spell Shop. So I basically did go solely off of my ratings of the book, except for within like the 5 stars, I had to figure out which ones came first. In the 2 stars, I had to figure out like which ones came first, and 3 stars and all of that. But that is my ranking for the Well-Read, Badly Behaved book club for 2024. And now let's switch over to the Night Owl book club. Okay, like I was saying at the beginning, the Night Owl book club is my own personal book club that I started over in my Patreon, and you are more than welcome to join. Like I said, I have all of the picks available in a video right here on my channel that you can watch to see which books we're going to be discussing. So you have all month to read the book at your own pace. And then at the end of the month, the last Sunday of the month, is when we do our discussions at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I have 5 slots that you can join me on screen, and then everybody else joins me in the comments. It's a really good time. Okay, so for this year, I did something new that I didn't do last year, and I did certain months throughout the year where you could bring your own book. So there were months that we had a monthly book pick, and there's a variety of ways that we chose which book we were reading, whether I picked it or I put some emojis up and had them choose between the emojis which one would win. Yeah, there was just a variety of ways, some that I was really looking forward to that I was like, we're definitely reading that book. But there were some months that it was to bring your own book. So what I would do is I would have 5 members of my book club come on, and sometimes I had a theme, sometimes I did not, but they would come on and just discuss whatever book fit the theme or whatever book they wanted. And those book discussions were obviously spoiler free, and it was their job to try to convince everyone to pick up the book that they were talking about. So let's start with January. We read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, because I also hosted an Agatha Christie like month-long reading challenge. So And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie was the January pick. Everybody knows what this is. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend. I rated it 4 stars. It was a reread for me. I initially read it last year and rated it 3 stars, and I bumped up my star rating this time. In February, we read No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall, and I rated this one 4 stars. It was one that they voted on. It's a thriller. It's the second book I've read by the author. In March, it was our first Bring Your Own Book month. We also did a Bring Your Own Book month in April. In May, we read Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is one that I picked. I was like, I'm gonna read it. Everybody's gonna read it with me. Of course, I rated it 5 stars. Abby Jimenez is just like top tier romance author for me. And yeah, I absolutely love her book. 88% of my book club members rated the book 5 stars. So that shows you how much we all really enjoyed it. In June, we read The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. And this was kind of all over the place. There were people that absolutely loved it. There was people that were like in the middle, like me. I rated it 3 stars, and then there were people that just did not like it at all. So it was a very good book to read for a book discussion, and it definitely has me curious about reading more books by this author in the future. My friend Angie, who is also a patron of mine, recently sent me the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn, not Evelyn Hugo, of Evelyn Hardcastle, by this author. And then I really want to read their new release that they were talking about in the acknowledgements portion of the book. It's going to be a thriller, so I'm really excited. So anyway, I rated The Last Murder at the End of the World 3 stars. July was another bring your own book month. I'm pretty sure the theme was paradise, and yeah, that was a really fun discussion. In August, we read a YA thriller called Two Sides to Every Murder by Danielle Valentine, and I rated it 4 stars. This is the 3rd book that I have read by the author. 2 of them have been YA, 1 of them have been adult, and I have loved or enjoyed, super enjoyed all of them. I rated this one 4 stars, and 57% of the people that read it rated it 4 stars. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you enjoy YA mystery thrillers, to pick up Danielle Valentine. In September, it was another bring your own book month. We did fall books. And then in October, we did our first and hopefully last ever doubleheader, because having 2 book discussions, like in-depth book discussions back to back, was a lot, because obviously I have to read both books. So anyway, we read We Used to Live Here by Marcus Clywer. As I mentioned, I also read that for my in-person book club. And then we also read So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. I put up a vote. Both of those books were in the vote, and Horror Store and something else was in the vote, and both of these tied with 50% of the vote. So I was like, why choose? Let's just choose both. So that's what we did, and I really enjoyed We Used to Live Here, gave it 4 stars, and I hated So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. I gave it 1 star. But it's kind of interesting because there was a 16% split between a 4-star, a 3-star, and a 1-star. But the biggest percentage was 37% with did not read. Yeah, very interesting. But I learned a lot in that discussion, so it still was a really good book discussion. Rachel Harrison writes, horror stories, typically like cozy horror, but lately not so much. My favorite by her is Such Sharp Teeth. I will never stop talking about how good that book is. I know a lot of people know her from Cackle, but Such Sharp Teeth has a special place in my heart. And then November, we did a bring your own book month. The theme was friendship, so we talked about friendship books. And then this month, we are reading The Christmas You Found Me, and I rated it 5 stars. I absolutely loved this story. Not only was the romance really, really cute, but it also had like deeper themes and topics and really hard-hitting topics. There was a content warning page at the beginning, and then not only is the story really sad, but also some information that is revealed about the author is really sad as well. So be prepared, bring tissues, but highly recommend. So now let's talk about my ranking. Just like in my in-person book club, there's a book I read earlier in the year that was 5 stars, and then I have a recent 5 stars. So obviously the one that has been sitting in my heart longer gets the higher ranking, but here's my ranking. So in first place, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. In second place, The Christmas You Found Me. And that's only because I recently read it. Like over time, it may be higher. I'm not really sure, but as is, Just for the Summer, number 1, The Christmas You Found Me, number 2. Number 3 goes to Two Sides to Every Murder. Number 4 goes to And Then There Were None, which was a reread, so it fell a little bit, lower in the rating because of that. Number 5 was No One Can Know. Number 6 was The Last Murder at the End of the World. And then finally, in last place, was So Thirsty. So those are my rankings for the other 2 book clubs that are very much a part of my heart and something I look forward to doing every single year. that's all for today's video. If you made it this far, leave the book stack emoji in the comment section down below. And if you've read any of these books and want to share your non-spoilery thoughts, I would encourage you to leave that in the comments as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day or night, and I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye, friends.